these are the exact 5 things that I'm gonna do to go from this to this as soon as possible. And the reason of this video is very simple. I'm just gonna talk about the 5 things that I'm gonna do to get back on track, because in the last couple of weeks I'm not in the best shape, I'll be honest. I traveled, I got sick, I was eating out, my sleep wasn't the best, everything was like crumbling, all right? So I felt that like I lost weight, I didn't feel on track, far from that. I was still getting my steps, getting my activity levels, but I wasn't lifting weights, maybe twice a week, once a week. I wasn't consistent, I was getting weaker, my nutrition wasn't the best because I was eating out, I traveled, like I got sick, like everything together. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to talk with you and tell you the exact 5 things that I'm going to do to get back on track, which I already started. So the number 1 thing that I'm going to do is a slight calorie deficit. Okay, when I say slight calorie deficit, it's not a huge calorie deficit, because this is one of the mistakes that I see people committing, which is they start to do a bunch of cardio, running, and then reducing massively the calories and eating and compromising their protein intake. So you want a calorie deficit, but a slight calorie deficit. If you go 250 to 500 calories deficit, that's more than enough, and that's my goal. My goal will always be strength training, some cardio here and there, but a slight calorie deficit will allow me to lose fat without compromising lean muscle, because what you need to distinguish, which is super important, is losing weight is different than losing fat. So what you should be aiming for is losing fat without compromising lean muscle, and for that you need a slight calorie deficit, which 250 calories to 500 calories per day is more than enough, and it's a good sweet spot for you to aim for in a sustainable way. Well, but calories alone are not enough, which brings me exactly to the second point: low intensity steady state cardio, which is basically walking. Okay, and I need to emphasize the walking, because running will get you the negative effect. So it's okay to run here and there once a week if you love it, or if it's good for your mental health, but for fat loss, for body composition, for longevity purposes, you want to walk. And low intensity steady state, which is called the LIS, is ideal for that. Ideal as well in terms of body composition, in terms of appetite, okay? Because if you're running a lot, it will increase massively your appetite. Also, it will increase your cortisol levels. You're going to be in zone 3, zone 4, and the beauty of zone 2 cardio, the LIS, is that you're going to be in zone 2, so you're going to walk incline, let's say 10% incline or 12% incline, walk at 3 miles per hour, or like 4.5 kilometers an hour, 4.7, or even 5. Okay, you can alternate. Just wear a tracker and see when you're in zone 2, which is supposed to be between 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. Okay, for example, for me, zone 2 is between 120 to 135, something like that, or maybe 118 to 140 on the upper zone 2. What you want is keep that zone 2, walk incline. It needs to be a pace where you're able to walk and to walk and to talk as well at the same time, because this will be the ideal zone where you're going to be burning fat for fuel. Okay, it's not going to increase your appetite, it's not going to increase your cortisol. And again, we need to go back again to this point, which is if you're running excessively, if you're doing a lot of brutal HIIT classes, cycling, running, it's increasing a lot your cortisol. And if you're increasing more your cortisol, your belly fat will stay there. Okay, so again, you're going to lose fat, you might lose muscle, you're not going to have the body composition that you're looking for, you're going to be craving junk food or sugary food. So again, walk as much as you can, do low intensity steady state cardio 3, even 4 days a week, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing low intensity steady state cardio 3 days a week, alternating. Ideally, I'm doing like Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I'm lifting weights, mostly full body workouts, mostly compound movements. 80% are compound movements. So that's the number 1 priority: strength training, get stronger on key lifts, 80% compound movements, and then sprinkle that with 2 or 3 days of zone 2 cardio, walk incline, get your heart rate up, but not too much, between 60 to 70%, and get your 10,000 steps per day. So if you combine these 2, strength training full body 3 days a week with low intensity cardio 3 days a week, you're going to get great results, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing right now to get back on track. And if you pair walking with the next one, fat loss becomes even easier, which is intermittent fasting. And when I say intermittent fasting, I want to clarify something. Intermittent fasting is not a miracle. It doesn't mean that you're going to do intermittent fasting and you're just going to lose weight. Okay, you need to know how to learn how to do intermittent fasting, because I see this over and over. People are fasting. Okay, so you're doing intermittent fasting, say, okay, I fasted for 24 hours, and then after that they just eat crap. Okay, or I'm fasting for 16 hours and then they break the fast with a bunch of carbs. So you need to learn how to use intermittent fasting as a framework for fat loss, but it's not a miracle. It can definitely help you losing fat without compromising lean muscle, as long as you have your daily protein intake covered. Okay, so that's a mistake that I see, is people doing fasting and then they break the fast with carbs, or they're not having enough protein, or they're not having enough water, or they're having a bunch of carbs. So again, you need to learn how to do intermittent fasting. So if you're doing a 16-hour fasting, ideally you should break the fast with protein and fats, minimize your carb intake, spread that across three meals, try to get your daily protein minimum, ideally 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. So if you're doing fasting, eating, let's say within 8 hours, you eat, for example, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., for example, or from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., example. Okay, it doesn't need to be like that. You eat during 8 hours, you fast for 16 hours. During those 16 hours, you make sure that you're hydrated, that you have some electrolytes, a little bit of salt, so that your body is functioning, so that you don't compromise your water intake, your hydration, your mental function, and all these things. So ideally, yes, 16 hours is a good sweet spot. You eat for 8 hours, okay, 3 meals. Make sure you're getting your daily protein intake within those 8 hours, and you should be good to go. All right. For example, personally, what I'm going to be doing is I like to fast the first 4 or 5 hours of the day. I don't eat the last 3 hours of the day. So I usually have my first meal, let's say around 9:30 to 10 a.m. Around that. I wake up at 5:30. I have my first meal 9:30 or 10, and then I have my last meal around 6:30 or 7. So I personally like this one because I fast the first 4 or 5 hours of the day, and then I don't eat the last 2 or 3 hours of the day, so that it doesn't compromise my sleep. So I feel that my digestion is good, I have good sleep, and this helps me massively in terms of recovery. In the morning, what I do in the first 4 or 5 hours, I drink 1 water of water upon waking up with a little bit of salt and lemon. I have my black coffee as well, and that's basically it. Okay, if you drink black coffee, it will suppress your appetite and you're going to be good to go. You're not going to be even thinking of food. And that's the beauty of intermittent fasting, which is you want your insulin levels to be low, because I know everyone tells you that calories in, calories out. Yes, calories are important. As I mentioned on the first point, you need to be in a slight calorie deficit. You need to have the right type of training so that you manage your hormones properly, so that it doesn't spike massively your cortisol and your appetite. But of course, you need to understand as well the role of insulin. And the beauty of intermittent fasting is that for 16 hours, your insulin levels are low. Okay, and every time your insulin levels are low, you're burning more fat. And that's why I told you as well that it's super important. The first meal where you break the fast, ideally should be like some eggs, avocado, some cottage cheese, some nuts, and that's it. Okay, no carbs or minimal carbs. And that's exactly how I break the fast, to keep my insulin levels as low as possible. And I try to put carbs after my workout when my body is highly receptive. However, even with the calorie deficit, even with the right type of training and doing intermittent fasting, if your sleep sucks, you're still not gonna get the desired results, which brings me exactly to point number 4, which is sleep and recovery. As simple as that. I talk a lot about sleep, and this is usually the point that people underestimate. Okay, but I get asked a lot of times about the supplement, but not about sleep. If you're sleep deprived and if you're sleeping constantly less than 7 hours, what's happening is that you're not having enough REM sleep, you're not having enough deep sleep, your cortisol levels are high. That means your stress levels will be higher as well. You're going to crave junk food, you're going to accumulate more belly fat because your cortisol levels are high. And if your cortisol levels are high, your testosterone levels are lower, which is the perfect storm. Okay, so the number one thing, even though we're talking about it as a number 4, the number one thing that you need to fix is your sleep, and understand the importance of recovery, the importance of natural hormonal manipulation, which takes place when you're sleeping, in your REM sleep, or in your REM sleep, in your deep sleep, especially if you go to bed early, before 10 or before 10:30. Ideally, the maximum amount of growth hormone and testosterone is produced in your body before midnight. So it's not the same sleeping from midnight to 8 as sleeping from 10 p.m. from 10 p.m. until 6. Okay, so try to go to bed early, like 9:30, 10:30. Get that quality restorative sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep. Your hormones will be balanced. You're gonna have more testosterone, more growth hormone, less cortisol. Okay, so this should be the number one thing that you should be aiming for to fix, which is your sleep. Plus, if you combine sleep with morning sunlight, this is a great bonus, because how you're going to improve your sleep, it starts actually not just at that night, but in the morning. What you do in the morning, how you manage your hormones. Are you getting sunlight in the morning? Are you being exposed to sunlight? Are you getting, like, let's say 10-15 minutes of direct sun exposure in your eyes, or are you going to be indoors? So it's super important what you do in the morning, because that will prime your body as well. The fact that you're going to get morning sunlight, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, like, try to expose your skin, don't use sunglasses. This will kind of regulate your circadian rhythm, and naturally at night you're going to feel more tired, you're going to feel more relaxed, and it will improve your sleep. Besides that, what I personally do, I got some blue light blocking glasses as well that I'm using 1 hour before bedtime. I try to switch off my screens 30 minutes before sleeping, which I'm still far from perfect on that matter, because most of the time, sometimes I'm in bed, I'm far from perfect. I'm on the bed and I'm still on the phone. The thing is that I switched on the red light. I have red light on my room, so this is something that you can do as well. Put your phone red light, you get some red lamps as well, and this will improve your sleep and help you produce more melatonin at night, which will help you relax and fall asleep faster. And once your hormones are aligned and you have these 4 things in place, then your body is in a condition, is ready for the cherry on the top of the cake, which is high intensity interval training. Okay, and we need to be paying attention to this term, because I know there are a lot of HIIT classes, there are a lot of cardio activities and all these things, and CrossFit and Orange Theory, and there are so many group classes, Barry's Bootcamp, and personally I love these classes from time to time, like once a week maximum. Okay, by the way, it's been months I don't do it, but if I like to break the routine, it's totally fine. You can do it as well once a week, but the thing is that, I mean, you can even do it 5 days a week, but you're not gonna get, probably if you want to do it 5 days a week, you wouldn't be watching this video. But the goal of this is for you to understand, like, HIIT is perfect for you to burn fat and to build muscle if done properly, because again, it spikes massively your cortisol. That's why you shouldn't be doing for a long time. If you're constantly doing HIIT classes or HIIT workouts, you're always spiking your cortisol and you're overloading your CNS, which is your central nervous system. Okay, so if you're always loading your central nervous system and spiking your cortisol, again, you're gonna keep struggling to get rid of that lower belly fat and the love handles, okay? Because cortisol is directly linked to visceral fat accumulation. That's why it's important for you to understand the right structure, what I spoke on point number 2 of walking, low intensity cardio, burn calories without compromising recovery, without compromising and increasing your cortisol levels. If you do the low intensity steady state cardio, walking incline, strength training, compound movements, and then once a week or once every 10 days, you get one high intensity training for 15 or 20 minutes. Personally, I love to do some sprints on the treadmill. I go on the assault treadmill or even on a treadmill, or outside, even outside, you can do outside, you don't need a treadmill. Okay, and I just do high intensity training. What I like is to do the Sprint 8 protocol. Sprint 8 protocol is the protocol where I basically sprint all in for like 30 seconds, and then I walk for 90 seconds. I sprint for 30 seconds, I walk for 90 seconds. This will allow my body to recover. And when I say sprint, it's like all in, 80%, 90% more, so you get to that zone 5. That's the importance that we need to distinguish. Like the zone 2 cardio that I mentioned on point 2, you're within 60 to 70%, so you're walking 30, 40 minutes, and your heart rate is within that range, and you're able to keep up a conversation. And then once a week or once every 10 days, you do that high intensity training, running, or if you cannot run because of impact, like you can do even Stairmaster, you can do rowing as well. Like, it's totally fine as long as you try to get like 5 to 6 or 8 intervals where you get too close to that zone 5. Zone 5 cardio means that you're above that 90%. This type of workout will massively increase your calorie burn for 24-48 hours. It will increase a bit of your cortisol. That's why it's important after this workout to recover. Okay, and that's why it's important to do it just once a week and not overdo it. And that's basically it. That's the exact protocol that I'm gonna follow within the next 6 to 8 weeks to get in my best shape possible, or at least to get back on track, which is the ones that I just mentioned: a slight calorie deficit while be mindful of my protein intake, strength training 3 days a week with those 2 or 3 low intensity cardio sessions. I'm gonna do intermittent fasting in a smart way. I'm gonna nail my sleep and maximize my recovery for hormonal adaptation. And I'm gonna do high intensity training once a week or once every 10 days so that it doesn't compromise my recovery and it boosts my fat burning. And that's basically what I'm gonna do for the next couple of weeks to get him back in shape. And I can assure that if you follow the exact same protocol, you're gonna get in great shape. Of course, this is not personalized advice for you because I don't know exactly where you are, what are your goals, but this is a good type of protocol that can get most guys in shape as quickly as possible, and again, in a sustainable way without compromising recovery and making you lose fat and keep it off. That's it for today, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, to subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below as well, what would you like me to cover more as well in terms of topics, either sleep or high intensity training or strength training, or what am I doing in terms of nutrition. Just let me know and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions and to make a video about those topics. I'll see you very soon. Let's crush the day. Let's go.